towards getting something better in the service-related sectors. ICT, I think, would be an area we could also marshal ourselves to take advantage of.
I would like us to talk about standardization, but before we do that, construction, what exactly do you mean there? How can Uganda position itself, by exporting cement or what?
That's one, but the service of construction, fortunately there's a policy on construction which I've seen, which is, I think, excellent. If this time we can have a policy implemented, a policy is not a policy but becomes something implemented, we could have our engineers reoriented in such a way that they could do construction work, roads. Look at where we are. There are a lot of opportunities in southern Sudan, a lot of opportunities in Congo. Look at the Chinese, the balance sheet for their country in construction.
It's huge.
It's huge.
That's true.
There's a lot the constructors are doing outside there. We could just see how to make our people we are promoting to do sciences to be much sharper, encourage them, boost them, and within 3-4 years, I'm sure they will be winning contracts and bringing us money.
And of course, we have the oil industry. And
yes, certainly the oil industry. We need to do a lot in the oil industry. There are immense opportunities, certainly, in the oil industry.
Right.
So the construction industry, we need to quickly take it as a priority to make it really work and work for the good of the people of Uganda.
All right, Mr. Ogwa, let's talk about standardization. When Mukwano produces their cooking oil and other people, and they sell it to Kenya, and it's been stamped UNBS ISO 2001 certified, how readily will it be accepted across the borders?
The general rule in East Africa is that it will be accepted.
Yes.
Under the East African Community EAC Standards Committee, there is an agreement that there will be mutual recognition of marks. So when you have a mark from your Uganda Bureau of Standards, it is assumed that Kenya will accept it. But whether Kenya accepts it, Kenya at least has been accepting it. Some countries have a problem with that. Those are the non-tariff barriers which we may be having. But generally standards, this has improved. If you have a UNBS mark, it is helpful. That should be like a motivation. It is costly sometimes to have the UNBS to get the certification. But the advantage with it is that your product can move across the market easily. That is the advantage which we have. Again, that will be one of the center points which UNBS should be working to see how best they can support. Not only set standards, because you can set standards as one thing, but helping the business community to achieve the standards is another. So both are required. We require the standards to be set, but also to help the business community to achieve the standards. The Bureau of Standards can do that, but they can also work with other service providers to achieve that. But I must say the standards are really helpful. The standards mark is helpful. There are a lot of things I think UNBS has helped us through that EAC arrangement. I think we had a problem with Rwanda while exporting mineral water some few years ago. The parameters we were using were not consistent with what UNBS was using, but they had to harmonize it. After harmonizing it, a lot of mineral water is now going to Rwanda. So there is a lot of things which, in my view, UNBS could be doing, which is very helpful and resulting to a lot of generation of income for this country. And if you relate, if it is value for money, if you look at for value for money, it becomes really value for money. But standards still, despite that, remains a problem. It remains an issue where we must work on. It is on manufactured products, it is on agricultural items, it is on beef-related issues, milk, all these products. The issue of standard cannot be wished away when you are going to compete in regional and sometimes even the local market. People are becoming conscious of that.
Let's talk about agro-processing. That's an area that seems to be lagging behind. Is that an area that we can emphasize to build competencies? instead of selling whole grain and other things, matoke, green matoke.
That's true. That's part of the value chain everybody should be working towards. You must first have the grain, so that later on you can process that. So they all help each other,
right,
in the whole value chain. So there must be actions to increase the quantity. Then the interventions of value addition should come in to support the process of that production and as you said, value addition. So agro-processing is an area we certainly need to do a little bit more than we are doing if we are to achieve more value on the products which we are producing.
All right, let's talk, Ms. Okwala, about the axle load limit. The amount of tonnage, the weight a truck can carry at any one time. Kenya had a certain standard, and they seem to be adamant they didn't want to go down. Uganda could allow its trucks to carry heavy weights, heavier than Kenya would accept. How far are we going in resolving this?
To the best of my knowledge, the Council of Ministers directed that it must be resolved. As you said, it has to be resolved. It does not make sense. It is a big problem we're certainly having in Uganda here. Imagine if your weight here is 56, and then you go to Kenya, they say it is 48 tons. So if you have loaded 56, where are you going to put the 8 tons? Where are you going to put that? It doesn't make sense if we're in the integration process. So it is only right to have that cleared. So my understanding is that negotiations are going on with Kenya to see how best this can be solved. As I said earlier, the integration is a process. So you'll find things which, like NTBs, which we're having, they will be common.
Non-tariff barriers.
Yeah, the non-tariff barriers. They are always there, but at least good enough there's a mechanism which has been put in place to help resolve this. Again, going back to our meeting tomorrow, those are the things which we'll be discussing, finding out the new ones, proposing how best they could be done. So NTBs will be part of it, and I'm glad to mention we'll have Ministry of Trade there. We'll have Ministry of East Africa. I may not be knowing as much as they do. They may be having more current information. But I know there's a mechanism which we always feed into for non-tariff barriers management at East Africa.
Let's go a little bit deeper on standardization, specifically on compliance. Let's talk about things like the minimum wage. Those are labor-related issues, and environmental standards. Do we have minimum standards on these? Are we standardized on them, or are we likely to in the near future?
Minimum wage?
Well, minimum wage, environmental standards. In Europe, some people won't buy your products unless you conform to certain minimum standards.
That's true. I think Uganda will have a minimum wage, only that the minimum is too minimum.
It was set in the 1980s, I think, by Milton Obote, 6,000 shillings a month.
6,000 shillings. The issue of minimum wage, certainly our thinking is that, and we know the private sector particularly, the responsible ones do not pay that old minimum wage. It's a little bit higher, but it may be still low compared to others. But when you're setting a minimum wage, we have been advocating that I think when you're setting a minimum wage, you need to look at what product, what geographical area, you know, because the minimum wage in agriculture may not be the same minimum wage, say, in banking. It may not be realistic to set it that way. So it should be thought out in such a way that labor is motivated, but also productivity is not stifled because of costs which are maybe too high. So there should be a balance between productivity and also the entrepreneurs to be able to survive. So that is important, and we are backing that with Federation of Uganda Employers. That is a position which we take. In East Africa, I think they are also trying to see how best to harmonize that. But that's the position, me as from private sector, I would say, yes, minimum wage, but it should be geographical consideration and then sector consideration. a general minimum wage may hurt some sectors, particularly agriculture may be hurt. If you set it to a standard of manufacturing, they may be hurt. If you set it particular standard for service providers, high-level service providers, if you set it with that in your mind, you will hurt the other sector. So you need, in my opinion, to balance that. On environmental, I think the business community, to my understanding, now take environment as part of their marketing point.
Yes.
Their marketing strong point. So if I comply with the environment, there's a tendency for me to market it so. Those are for local products. But for the regional or international, you still have to do that because the market dictates that. The beauty with it is that when you pronounce yourself that you are doing that, there are premiums with that. So it is no longer a situation of increasing costs. There are also advantages which accrue to that from the side of the enterprise. So my thinking is that I think we are going together in the same direction.
All the 5 countries?
I may not be aware whether all the 5 countries are considering that in a harmonized way, but in business sense. Right. What makes business sense? All the entrepreneurs within the region. I was once working at the regional level, so the thinking of all entrepreneurs is what sustains your business. If the market sustains your business, you must comply to that.
This is Petram on Radio 1 tonight. 1 year of the common market. Why are traders in the East African community region still facing challenges, and what are the opportunities within the region that traders need to take up? Our guest is Mr. Moses Ogwal. He's the Director for Policy and Advocacy at the Private Sector Foundation Uganda. That's right, the Private Sector Foundation Uganda. You can call in now. Our numbers 0414 348 111, 0312 260 390, 0791 909 909. When you call in, please tell us your name and where you're calling from. As we wait for the callers, Mr. Ogwal, you gave the impression that if you have a minimum wage, it probably should be different for every sector. Is it not possible to have one at the bottom? The lowest paid worker should not get maybe less than 30,000 a month.
As I said, it may hurt people from other sectors, even the employees. If you set it too low, you could hurt. And it is cross-board. You could hurt people
in the service, in the knowledge industry.
Yeah. If you set it too high, possibly look at the geographical area.
Yes.
Somebody in the rural area and somebody in the urban setting.
Right.
Even the costs are different. I think we need to move into an area of realistic setting of minimum wage.
Do we really need it?
Yeah, in the case of boosting productivity, if minimum wage can help boost productivity, then it is helpful for both the employee and the employer.
Yes.
Yeah, it will be helpful. It will be helpful in that way. But my understanding is, if you are skilled, more productive, you will receive what is more than what is called minimum wage.
Right. So you don't quite need it, and you can still have different.
I would certainly have not so much. I will not lose so much sleep on that.
Over the lack of a minimum wage.
Yeah, I will not.
Let's talk, Mr. Ogwal, about the common currency, the monetary unit. That's how we like to put it. But we eventually are talking about a common currency. How would it help traders doing business across the region? And yeah,
hopefully, on the face of it, it would reduce transaction costs. Transaction costs on currency is estimated to about 8%.
8%? Yeah,
it's about 8%. If I'm selling a product in Sudan, or I'm selling a product in Rwanda, transaction costs related to exchange of money sometimes now shoot between 6 to 8%.
Right.
That is huge. So, on the face of it, having common currency would be helpful to reduce those costs related to exchange. even just travelers, if you are traveling from, if you are a tourist traveling from Kampala and you want to go to Nairobi and you want to go to Tanzania, Burundi, Rwanda and come back, if you had, even if you are not buying anything, and you go with your 1 million Uganda shillings, you change it to Kenya, by the time you come back, you will be many shillings poor.
Right.
Because of exchange.
Right. You have 1 million shillings, you cross the border.
You change
it.
You again change it.
When you come back,
no. You continue to Tanzania.
Continue to Tanzania, you change. If you went to Burundi, to Rwanda, by the time you come
back here, you will be
lost maybe 70% of it.
Yeah, lots of money will have been lost. So, common currency theoretically should be helpful.
What do you mean theoretically?
There are little bit things maybe which should be seen under that. When do you come to a common currency?
Right.
What must be there before you get the common currency?
Yes.
What other pillars of the economy should be in place before you get a common currency?
Right.
I think the question of Europe.
Yes.
They have all gone into the euro. They have all gone to a unified economy. The question is, why is it that Greece is having the problems it is having?
Portugal as well.
Portugal is having, even Ireland.
Ireland, yes.
Yeah.
Which is a big economy.
Which is a big economy. So those are the things, if you're saying a unified economy with a single currency operating, there are so many things which are underlying which should be solved or should be put in place.
But of course there's a big difference between the Eurozone and East Africa. Our economies are not too far apart. I mean, Burundi, Rwanda's economy is about 1/4 of the Ugandan economy. Burundi is about 1/2 of Rwanda's economy. Kenya is not double Uganda's economy. The variances are not that big. In Europe it's much bigger. Germany, the world's fourth largest economy. Greece, much smaller. And
I'm not
Europe is not tending towards a political union.
No, we are talking of economic union, unified economy and unified currency.
Right.
My thinking, of course, that's why I said theoretically. The issue is, it's like a marriage.
Right.
When you are marrying and you are marrying somebody who has debts, comes into a marriage with debts.
You share those.
You share the debts. What happens? Maybe you end up poorer. That's an analogy would possibly use.
Right.
So you need to have the union when the level of debt management shows that you are almost at the same level.
Right.
Fiscal policy is almost the same.
Right.
Monetary policy is the same.
To borrow and things like
yes, monetary policy is the same. Those are things which appear but destabilize the macroeconomy which destabilizes everything. So in my view, we need to make sure we are on top of those areas. The pillars like customs union must be functioning. The common market must be functioning properly. Debt management must be in such a way that it is comparative. Fiscal spending is the same. Monetary policy is the same.
Okay.
Then it makes it elite. That's my thinking.
Spectrum, hello. We have a caller. Okay, you can still call in 0414 348 111 0312 260 390 0791 909 909. Yes, I cut you short.
No, I was saying for the single currency, for that to operate, those are some underlying things down there.
And of course you have to get priorities right. You drew the analogy of the marriage. If the husband likes to borrow to go and drink and the wife likes to borrow to buy shoes, they need to harmonize this.
Yeah.
Even at the macro level.
Yeah.
If Uganda is borrowing to buy jets, Kenya borrows to buy to build an oil refinery, these have to be synchronized. The priorities, spending priorities.
As I said, the debt management should be similar. They should be related when you are coming to the marriage.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the common government. We're planning to have one by 2015. That's just about 4 years' time. That's not too far away. How would this help in realistic terms?
Now, this is a little bit personal. My personal view is that, in fact, if we could have succeeded with
the money,
the political one first,
Yes.
then all these other things would come in place.
Some people think it's the money that comes first.
To me personally, because you have NTBs, non-tariff barriers, because somebody is protecting his economy. Possibly if we had started with the political union,
right,
we would not have these other smaller problems.
Right.
Maybe it would have been easier to manage them. But that's my personal thinking.
True.
But economics tells us that we have to go step by step.
Right.
We have to go step by step. When we have completed the free trade area, we move to customs union, then we move to monetary union. Step by step measure that. Possibly they are also right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Ogwal, can you take us down again to the trade fair? How do we walk towards it? What are the activities around it? And the context? Is it the first one? Is it the last one?
Oh, this is the 6th, and we are expecting about 4,000 business persons. We have about 60 exhibitors. It will be at, as I said, Lugogo, the main exhibition hall, that big one which you have in that place.
Yes.
We will have a lot of facilitators, including PSFU. We will have our famous support to enterprises. We are managing on behalf of the Prime Minister's office and funded by DFID a 13 million pound support to enterprises.
Yes.
Particularly from districts which were considered a little bit disadvantaged, starting from around Palisa up to parts of Masindi. So there are also grants there. It would be important for the business community to see what advantage they can take. There will be banks, there will be insurance companies, there will be transport and logistics managers, there will be business consultants to tell you how best to do the same thing in a different way to help you without major resources. Just do it cleverly to see how best you can improve your systems of operation.
Think about processes.
Yeah, processes. There will be kind of people like that. There will be government institutions. There will be embassies. Those embassies where you hear that it is hard to go there, they will now be at Lugogo to support you, especially in the areas of trade. Particularly the European Union has what they call there's a marketing tool which they use. A lot of information which you can use for research, you can do for that to achieve markets and so on. Right. It's really wonderful. It will be. We're trying to get in the afternoon tomorrow. There is a delegation of business people from Thailand. They are in the country, and we're trying to get them in the afternoon tomorrow. So people from the importing community, those who want to do joint ventures, this is also an opportunity. You can quickly get there and meet them. They will be in our stall. All right.
Mr. Moses Ogwal, Director of Policy and Advocacy at the Private Sector Foundation Uganda.
Sponsors.
Thank you very much indeed for coming to Spectrum. Very briefly, what you wanted to say something?
I wanted just to send appreciation to those who have supported this whole process.
Who are these?
Perhaps that's a project in the Ministry of Tourism, Trade and Industry. Companies like Shumuk.
The list is long.
The list is long.
Right now. Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you for tuning in. I've been your host, Monchis. The Spectrum will be back tomorrow. Up next, though, is the news in English.
Let's talk about the home of your dreams and how you plan to finance it. Let's discuss money.